Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have one of my favorite fun fold cards that I want to share with you. This is a Z fold card, and I have two different ways you can use it in your card making. However, this Z fold card has a little surprise inside. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have two different Z fold cards that I want to share with you that feature a fun little surprise on the inside. Now, the cards in this video feature the Pretty Florals bundle from Stampin Up. So this particular bundle has a stamp set and a coordinating die set. And I will also be using some of the greetings from the Sweet Blooms stamp set as well. However, you can use any supplies you have on hand to create these Z-fold cards. So let me show you how I created these and how I added that little surprise on the inside. Okay, so the first way that you can create a Z-fold card is in this portrait style. So this is your standard Z-fold card. Typically you would have some patterned paper or something underneath and a little message that kind of hides behind your front piece. But for this Z-fold card, I actually added some patterned paper. So it kind of has two openings. It has the front opening and then it has another little opening, a little surprise on the inside. So I'm going to show you how to make this in portrait style. So you're going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock, and you're going to score it at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4 inches. And then basically what we're going to do is we're just going to burnish these score lines, and we'll take this one that's at 2 1/8 and fold it back onto itself. And that's basically how you create just a regular style Z-fold card. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to add some pieces to this card. So the first thing I did is just cut a 1 7/8 by 5 1/4 inch piece of patterned paper. And we're going to adhere this to that front panel. So this very first panel here, we're going to put here. Then the next piece is the same size. It's just 1 7/8 by 5 1/4 inches. This time I decided to add a piece of embossed white cardstock. Since the pattern paper that I'm using is pretty busy, I wanted to just kind of break it up a little bit with a little bit of white on white embossing. So the next thing you want to do is you want to cut a 4 by 10.5 inch piece of pattern paper. And then you want to score it in the middle at 5 1/4 inches. So this is actually what's going to create this little inside section. So since I have directional paper, I want to make sure that my little flowers are in the correct direction. So I start by cutting a 4 inch piece, and then I cut it down to 10.5 inches. And then I go ahead and score it. So this back part here is simply going to get adhered to the inside of this card. So the piece is just a 1/4 inch smaller. So when I adhere it in here, it actually measures 4 by 5 1/4 inches. But it's a fun little surprise, a little section where you can add an additional message. So let's go ahead, since we have the card in this position, let's just go ahead and add our decorations on the inside here. So I just cut a 3 3/4 by 5 inch piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to put that right on the inside of my patterned paper. And I just stamped a little image on there and added some die cut pieces. So that's basically our inside. So we can fold our Z-fold card back up, and let's go ahead and add our decorations to the outside. So you're basically just going to create a little focal point. So I did that with some of the die cut pieces and stamped images from these particular stamp sets. And I'm just going to add this little circle shape right to this front flap. So I only added glue to that left side. And so it'll stick out on this front flap, and this will be the front focal point for your card. And then I have the same size circle shape. So this is a 3 inch in diameter circle shape. And this is actually going to go on the inside here. So this one I'm going to just add a bunch of glue to my circle shape. And we're going to push this down so that I have an idea of where it goes. And we will just add this to this inside piece. And so that's basically all there is to it. So you open the card up like this, and you get a little message here, and then you open the card up and you get even more personalized message. You can handwrite a message on the inside of this card. So it's super fun and just a different way to use that Z-fold card design. So the second card idea actually features the same kind of Z-fold design, except for this time it is a landscape style card instead of a portrait style card. So the measurements for creating this card are different from the one that I just shared. So let me show you how to make this one. So to create the landscape style card, you need a piece of cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And then you're going to score at 2 3/4 inches and 5 1/2 inches. And so this will create basically an A2 size card. So let's burnish this score line. So this is an A2 size card, and you just flip this panel back onto itself to create that Z-fold style design. So now you have a Z-fold style card, and it is in landscape style. So let's go ahead and open this up, and let's add all our pieces. So for this card, I started with a 2 1/2 by 4 inch piece of pattern paper. So that is going to go on our front panel. So remember, this is the front panel of the Z-fold card. And then on the inside section here, I have the same size paper. So this is 2 1/2 by 4 inches. And this time it's a piece of embossed white cardstock again. So to add the pattern paper to this section for a landscape style card, you're going to cut a 5 1/4 by 8 inch piece. And then you're going to score in the middle of that 8 inch side, you're going to score that at 4 inches. So this is going to create this little section for the inside of the landscape card. So let's go ahead and add this piece to that inside section. So once we add this piece, it again measures 5 1/4 by 4. It's just a different orientation. And then you have a nice place to add your little message on the inside. So let's go ahead and add that inside piece. So it's just a 5 by 3 3/4 inch piece. And this time, instead of stamping images on it, I just added some additional designer paper on this piece. So we'll add this right to this section. And so that's our little inside surprise. And then we can fold our Z-fold back together, and we can go ahead and add our focal points. So for this one, I just used some different flowers, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to adhere part of this to the front flap of this card. So we'll just adhere that left side of this focal point down. And then I have another piece, same size circle shape, that I'm going to add on the inside. So I want to make sure it's underneath this circle shape. So let's go ahead and add this piece, and we'll add it right about here. All right, so that is what our landscape style card looks like. And then there's a little spot for you to write a personalized message underneath the stamped messages. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 2 different ways you can create this Z-fold style card and add that little surprise on the inside of the card. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.